So here's the cool thing about this next step is, remember when I told you to get a Lander account? Well, I don't know if other places do this, but Lander does, and this is super cool. So when the whole COVID-19 thing first happened, I thought to myself, how the heck am I going to start to get a fan base? Regardless of whether we're in quarantine or not, how am I going to get eyes on my stuff, especially with a limited budget? And I feel one of the best ways to do that is to basically cover a song, like a band would. The big one that comes back to me from my early days in music was a band called Orgy covered a song called Blue Monday, which my 80s inner child is slapping me right now for I think it's New Order Blue Monday. But anyways, you can do that too as a DJ and a producer. And if you trace back to my launching of this basically project or experiment back in sort of March, I released Don't You Worry Child by the Swedish House Mafia, and then I also released Skrillex, Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites. But instead of doing it basically the way they did it, I completely tropified it out. Cool thing about Lander was, well, okay, I don't want to skip ahead. So I made those, okay, did the best job I could, didn't really overthink it. Basically what I did was I took my 30-day power production course, and I took studying a cover song, in my case, Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites and Don't You Worry Child, so Skrillex and then Swedish House Mafia, and I made a song. There's a lot of ways to find MIDI online to kind of hack recreating everything from scratch, because that can be very painful. There's a lot of different MIDI sites and MIDI files online that you can use, and if you message me, I'll tell you those resources. But at the end of the day, you could probably just do a Google search, but I can show you a few shortcuts if you message me. So, think about a cover song that you think would be really cool to do in your style, and do that. Now, here's the thing. Cover songs already have a history, a fan base, memories associated with them, and a marketing budget behind them. So, when you are using a cover song or recreating a song, a remix, a cover, however you want to kind of label it, a bootleg, you're standing on the shoulders of all of that. So the cool thing is you're kind of doing an SEO kind of hack, kind of a fan hack as well. And there's other things that can come up later, like if that song really hits again, if you leave your stuff online as well, you'll hit, because you'll come up in the searches and stuff. That's broadly speaking, of course. I mean, you know, you might not, but generally speaking, you're going to be linked to that song, so that's always a good thing. So I originally thought, okay, so I'll upload this onto SoundCloud and I'll push it around Facebook and stuff, and I'll just use it as a freebie to get fans. Then I realized Lander allows you to upload cover songs. And once again, for the $50 or $60 that I paid for distribution and mastering on Lander, including Beatport distribution, I also got, for free, no extra charge, them working to get my cover songs cleared, to get the licenses. So I submitted that stuff to Lander. It took a little longer than I had hoped. It takes about a good month, so give yourself plenty of time. But somehow they did it. They got the license and the clearance for me to release my tropical version of Swedish House Mafia's Don't You Worry Child, which you can go to my Spotify and stream that right now. And the same thing for my tropical version, tropical future bass version of Skrillex, Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites. I didn't pay extra. I didn't have to contact anybody. I basically just uploaded my cover songs, my bootlegs, to Lander, and they took it from there, and that was it. So what started off as basically a free track to entice a fan base into my web, if you will, turned into me being able to take that track and actually release it legally on Spotify because of what Lander was doing for me. And that's made available to anybody on Lander who basically makes a cover song and wants to release it. So I don't know if other distribution companies will do that, but that is something to consider, at least in the lander realm. The other ones may do that too, and therefore you don't have to worry about just going with lander if you don't want to for some reason, but I know that lander does. That's what I use right now. There you go. I'll see you in the next step.